Hello and welcome to this video tutorial on the topic of the new Data Explorer app introduced in Gluware 4.1. This video tutorial is for users that are getting ready to start using Gluware, either through the test drive or a free trial or even a proof of concept you're going to be executing in your own lab. So let's get signed in to the Gluware 4.1 system. And I'm executing this recording on the demo.gluware.com system. So for those of you following along with the test drive, you can follow right along and complete the tasks I'm showing you as well. So as we sign into Gluware 4.1, I'm dropped into the last solution I was in, which happened to be dashboards. In dashboards, just to reiterate, you can jump in and see any of the pre-built dashboards. And from there, I do want to highlight one of the helpful links that's available to you is the support portal. And through the support portal, which is here, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. If you navigate into Gluware provided examples, this is where you can download and install into your own instance example dashboards, example data template, data explorer templates, which I'm going to show you in just a few minutes, config modeling feature examples, and audit policy examples. So let's get right into it. What I want to first show you is that traditionally you would navigate each Gluware solution like Device Manager, Drift and Audit, OS Manager, Config Modeling. You'd work within each solution. You get discovered results that populate into your Device Explorer. And at a certain point, you may have been using our ability to export out the results. So if you were to click on a single export results or devices in this case, you're going to get a fixed report with all of the fields in that report. So prior to 4.1, that was one of the primary mechanisms of exporting data outside of Gluware. You also had access to the data export utility. Data export had a series of reports you could generate that were Gluware pre-built. With the new Data Explorer, which I'll navigate into here from the new left-hand nav menu, I'm going to navigate into Data Explorer and I'm going to navigate into the sub-choice of the template library. So with Data Explorer, you have really two main views in the bottom panel. And it's very similar to Drift and Audit, or let's say Audit, in that in this case you're looking at a list of report templates that have been created and already exist within the system. Or you can toggle over to the device view. The reason the device view is there is that once you are testing your template and want to generate data into it, you can select a group of devices and then feed that data into the template and generate the report. So let's switch back over to the template library view. And what I want to highlight here is that if you're following along with the test drive, you will have these reports already added in. So let's just go ahead and double click into one of them and open up one of the key components here of the application, the template editor. So here in the template editor at the top, you name the template, you add a description, you have the option of changing from column to row orientation. We'll show an example that uses that. You have permissions over here of public or private. If it's private, it will be tied to your user. If it is public, anyone who has access into your organization will see it, and you can also make it available to sub-organizations. What I was just showing you earlier was in the Device Manager app, there I showed you how to export a result, export the data out using a single click. That report is known as the default report. And if I were to create a custom report here, I could make it the default for Device Manager, Drift and Audit, or OS Manager. But let's get a little bit more into how these templates are built. So essentially, you have the ability to click Add Row, and then from the selections or choices, you add in the fields you want to see in the report. And you have access to essentially the full Gluware database of discovered data and the PERT app data and more. So you can see in this example report, which is the Cisco Extended Inventory, we have the name, the description, the management state, IP address, vendor, host name, and then information. When you see the term discovered, These are fields that we're discovering, like we discover dynamically what vendor we're speaking to. We read the host name, we read the operating system or determine the operating system and read the version. So all of the discovered data is actually pulled out of the device during device discovery, and so on and so forth. So you can see a lot of information here. There's information from the general category, from the OS manager category, and then it gets into the support data. So support data is specific, in this case, to having the Cisco API configured and pulling various data about that. And again, additional discovered data about the hardware. So you can see there's a lot of data that is potentially there to pump into this report. So let's take this report and apply it to a device or a set of devices. So let me flip or toggle back over to my view. This will be most interesting with a device that's actually really hardware. In the Gluware test drive, the majority of the devices are virtual. You do have one physical switch in most pods. So I'm going to select the physical switch and come over to this button here, which is Run Report. So I'll select Run Report. And I am, from the drop down of all my templates, I'm going to select Cisco Extended Inventory Device List and hit Run. So what Gluware is going to do now is just generate from the database. We're not going back out to the device and interrogating it. From the database, that information we've already captured is now fed into the report. So this report is not a big one since it's only a one line item device. However, if I scroll across, I can see all the data that I surfaced around the vendor and the operating system and the version, the serial number and the SKU. And you could see as I scroll to the right here, product ID, end of life, end of sale, component level information, power supply. There's tremendous amount of information. If I keep going, I have all the details available that I generated into the report. So this type of report is extremely useful when you are trying to get a hold of your inventory, understand what you have, and understand and keep record of serial numbers and SKUs and things like that. So moving on, let's look at another example report that we have. So let me select a group of devices, and I will select all of the Cisco devices here in my network or in my test drive pod here, and I'm going to say Run Report. And this time we're going to look at something a little more centric to security advisories or issues that Cisco issues through their support council. So this is the Cisco Pcert summary, and I hit Run. So now what you're seeing here is for the devices in my test drive pod here, being one physical switch, an ASA firewall, and then a number of CSR 1000Vs, a 9K virtual. As I scroll over for information when it's available from Cisco, I can see the total number of advisories, criticals and highs and mediums. Now, if I was watching this and I expected 0 criticals and now there's 2, this could be of concern to me. This might drive me to upgrade my operating system. So this is an example of generating a report that you may want to do on a regular basis to understand at a summary level the advisories that are being issued. And you can even put thresholds on them as well. For example, if I want anything greater than 0 to turn red, I could do that in the report as well. So that was an example of the Pcert data. Now let's take again a look at, this time I'm going to select a subset of devices. I'll select essentially all the, let me sort my by SKU here. I'll choose all my CSRs because they all run iOS XE. And now I'm going to run a report, and I'm going to run the config, drift, and audit device list. When I staged the pod of this test drive, I ensured I could run drift and I could run audits. And let's see what those examples look like in a report. So I click Run. So here in this report, and again, I didn't step through all the data of the report, but we're pulling in the device name, description, management state, IP, vendor, and so on and so forth. As I scroll down, I have the field of the status, and this is the status related to the drift, so it's unchanged, so that's good. I did run an audit against these devices related to a security specification, and it found numerous security violations. So the audit status is a failed. So if I was running daily drifts and daily audits, I could also generate this daily report that had like consolidated information, and then I could decide to take action on it. So you're seeing me run these reports kind of ad hoc or on demand, but I could also take this report, click this run button again, and instead of running it currently, and again this was the drift and audit report, I could push it into a schedule. So what you can think about, in your operational tasks and what you're doing is, for certain things you want to do on demand, you can come in and use the report templates and the integrated viewer. For things you're going to do periodically, like daily drifts and daily audits, you probably want a daily report. For something like a hardware inventory, you might want to do that quarterly. If you're doing a security audit, you might do that weekly, right? So it really depends on the type of data and what that data is going to drive you to do, but you certainly can run them on demand or scheduled. So I'll hit cancel here. And then one last one I want to show you here is that if we jump back to the list here, here's my template. So now what I want to do is import a template. So I'm going to just say import, and so it prompts me to drop the JSON file here. And as I mentioned already, from the Gluware support page, you can download, if you don't have these in your system, you can download the example data explorer templates. As you click on these are in a JSON format. So let me just scroll over and drag and drop a template that I want to add to my system, and I'll click OK. So it's just that easy to import in new templates, and it's sitting in a state called a private template. Once I double click on it, I open it up into the editor here, and I can change it from a private, which is, let's say, only accessible by my credentials, to a public, where anybody in this org would see it or have access to the org, and I click save. Anytime you make a change, you want to click save. So in this case, we're going to be looking at numerous information related to the ports. So if you didn't get a chance to watch the Gluware 4.1 webinar or the deeper full tutorial on Device Explorer, I suggest you either view the webinar or go to the tutorials page. But basically we cover how we have expanded the discovered information. So we're capturing more information about the ports, layer 2 configuration and status, and layer 3 information as well. So you can see in this report I'm generating out a lot of discovered information. So VLAN ID, VLAN name, MAC address, speed, duplex, MTU, operational status, right? So this is, I would say, kind of like a very tactical style of report, in terms of, instead of going box by box and issuing show commands and trying to find a needle in the haystack, I can build a report like this which presents to me a lot of information about the device or set of devices I'm looking at. So this one's called, again, layer 2 port state. So I'm going to toggle to my device view here. I'm going to grab that physical switch and I'll run this against it, which is my layer 2 port state, and hit run. And as that runs, again pulling from the database, it's going to present to me, and this is an example report that is row orientation. So each interface on the switch becomes a row. So I can see my gig E00 down to the next module, the 1/0/ and this one's a 24 port, and I have a 4 port, and then I can see here I have the additional ports here. So I can scroll down through my ports, but what I can very quickly see in a nice presentable format, which can be, again, saved out in CSV, JSON, or PDF, if I scroll to the right, I can look at my VLANs assigned, I can look at the VLAN naming, I can look at if ports are enabled or not, if I'm using port descriptions, if you're automating, and sometimes you can tie conditionals to a port description, you might want to look at that. And then as I continue scrolling to the right, I see things that are not in the configuration. you'd have to do a show interfaces to see the MAC. So here I can generate out a report, and if I'm searching for a specific MAC address, I could find it. If I want to confirm I don't have any issues with MTU mismatch, I see that here. I can see nearly all my ports are in auto speed mode or auto duplex mode. So, and a best practice might be to change that to fixed, hard-coded speed and duplex. This switch is primarily used for executing OS management jobs, meaning upgrading and downgrading the switch for demos. So a lot of the ports are down, but you can see the operational state. So this is, again, additional information you can look to leverage in to Gluware to help you with, if I think back to a few of the results I've shown you, and you can run for yourself, is looking at your inventory in detail, looking at your network from a security perspective and vendor information, looking at a summary of things like drifts and audits and other activities that are happening on the network, and even down to more tactical, operational, and state information, looking at layer 2 or layer 3 port states and how they're operationally configured. So with that, I hope this has provided a lot of value to you in terms of allowing or enabling you to run this application. If you do want to run around with creating a new template from the template library, you just simply create a new template, and you can call it whatever you like. I'll call it, DE demo, and hit create. So now I've literally created a blank template that I could add a description, and I start adding the fields I want to see. So I talked about the discovered information. There's a lot of discovered information, but I might want the host name to start. So name, this one's added by default, but then the host name. And then, I might want, again, back to discovered information, I might want my operating system and my operating system, back to discovered, operating system version. So I can create a report this simple. This, as you go in here, the conditional formatting, if I can click add here, if I expected a certain version, I could say, if it's 16.1.2 or whatever I'm expecting, I could say the highlight color, if, so I can add a rule. If it equals 16.1.2, turn, green, or if it doesn't equal, turn red. You can add some logic here, and then it'll format the way you'd want to see it. But I actually don't need that rule. This is just for an example. So you can also add calculations, sums, and averages. But let's just take this very simple report, save it, DE demo, and now I can select my group of devices. I'll just grab these CSRs here, run the report, and this is going to be DE demo, and hit run. And again, we're just mining the data that's already been captured by Gluware and is in the database. Each time you run a discovery, a drift, or an audit, or config modeling provisioning, we are refreshing the discovered information, and you can generate whatever you want in a report here. So in addition to these reports being available directly through Data Explorer, if I navigate back to Device Manager, even from here, now that those templates are created, I can select these group of devices, and I have direct access to all of my templates now from all of the data explorers that are part of each solution. So if I click on Run Report, I have all of my reports available to me. So once you've built it in Data Explorer, or once you've gotten the report the way you like, you can run it on demand here, or you can run it, or you can schedule it. When you're running it from something other than Data Explorer, you won't see the results in real time, but you can generate your results, right? And then you can generate and then view them externally or outside of Gluware. That is really kind of the primary purpose, is of being able to extract the data outside of Gluware. So with that, I'll navigate back to Data Explorer here and just toggle back to the template and library view. But with that, it concludes this video tutorial of how to use Data Explorer.